All right, today we're going to talk about something that's in pretty much every kitchen: salt. I came across this piece that completely challenges everything we think we know about it, and it's pretty fascinating. So just imagine for a second, what if all that health advice we've been following for decades is just wrong? That's the big provocative question at the heart of the source we're digging into today. It suggests that sodium, far from being our enemy, might be something else entirely.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for breaking this all down. First, we're going to look at how sodium got such a bad reputation in the first place. Then, we'll get into the author's main claim that it's absolutely essential for life. After that, things get pretty wild with a theory about its role in our evolution. We'll follow that up with the actual brain science behind it. And finally, we'll see how this all changes the way we should look at hypertension.
So, first things first, let's start on familiar ground. We all know the story, right? The widespread belief is that sodium is one of the biggest bad guys in our modern diet. But right out of the gate, the author of this piece frames it completely differently. He argues this isn't a scientific fact, but a deliberate campaign, a demonization that he claims serves some very powerful interests. I mean, that's a pretty bold way to kick things off. And he really doesn't pull any punches. He claims this whole story is built on what he calls fraudulent studies and the promotion of a simplistic ideal blood pressure. And why? He says it's all about profit, for drug companies selling antihypertensive meds and for the food industry selling sodium-free products. He's pretty much alleging a full-blown conspiracy against salt. So after laying out this idea of the villain, the author pivots hard. He makes a huge counterargument that sodium isn't just not a villain, it's absolutely fundamentally essential for life itself. For him, sodium is the key element that allows our bodies to work at the most basic level. It's not just a seasoning, it's the spark that makes everything possible, from our thoughts to our movements. And he doesn't hold back at all. He puts it in these incredibly stark terms, arguing that if you took away sodium, you take away the very possibility of being a thinking, feeling human. I mean, wow, this one idea is really the foundation of his whole case. Okay, now this is where the argument takes a really fascinating and, yeah, a highly speculative turn. He proposes that sodium wasn't just essential for life, it was actually a key ingredient in our own evolution. He asks this really interesting question. What if our intelligence isn't just some random accident? He speculates that our amazing cognitive abilities might have been supercharged by something really simple: our discovery of and love for salt. He grounds this theory in a simple, almost myth-like story. You can't prove it, and he admits that, but it's a powerful way to imagine how our ancestors could have suddenly, dramatically increased their sodium intake, maybe kicking off a huge evolutionary chain reaction. Now, what's really cool here is how the author maps these huge leaps in human progress directly onto periods when our salt consumption went way up. He draws a line from the Industrial Revolution's use of salt for preserving food to the explosion of invention and discovery that came right after. So, how could salt possibly fuel intelligence? Well, the author shifts from history to biochemistry, arguing that the mechanism is right there in the wiring of our brains. It all starts with ions. These are just electrically charged atoms. He explains that these ions, especially sodium, are what create the electrical currents that our entire nervous system runs on. This is our body's vital energy. And this really illustrates the engine of our thoughts. Our neurons basically work like tiny batteries. You've got sodium concentrated outside the cell and potassium concentrated inside. The whole magic trick is the movement of these two in opposite directions. That's what creates an electrical signal. So the crucial point is this: a thought, a feeling, a movement. It all begins with sodium rushing into a nerve cell. That's the trigger. Then potassium rushes out to reset the system, and chlorine helps to balance everything out. According to the author, the more sodium you have available, the more efficiently this whole engine can run. So all of this science and history is building up to the author's final point, which brings us right back to where we started: the accusation that sodium causes high blood pressure. And here, he makes a distinction that he sees as absolutely critical. He isn't saying salt has zero effect on blood pressure. No. Instead, he argues that the medical world has confused a cause with an aggravating factor. He explains the mechanism pretty simply. Salt makes your body retain water, which increases your blood volume. More volume means more pressure on your blood vessel walls. So, for someone who already has hypertension, yeah, a high sodium diet can make things worse. But he argues it isn't the root cause of the condition itself. The author ends his piece by pretty much acknowledging that his ideas are unconventional, even radical. He admits that people might find his whole theory absurd, but he presents it as a possibility worth thinking about, one that challenges a really deeply held belief. And that's really where the source leaves us. Is this just an outlandish, unproven theory built on a lot of speculation? Or is it a valuable new perspective that forces us to question what we think we know about a simple, everyday substance? The author has made his case. The conclusion? Well, that's up to us.